This is Alec Bo. Welcome back to Code with Bo. This is going to be the next installment in our Swift for Beginners series. And in this part, we're going to be talking about arrays, how to declare them, how to initialize them, and also some basic methods that we can use on them. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So, what is an array? An array is one of Swift's collection types. Swift has other basic collection types, such as sets and dictionaries. Arrays specifically are ordered collections of the same type. So a dictionary is not going to be in order, and sets can also have different types of values. But an ordered collection of the same type means that an array has to consist of entirely strings, entirely doubles, entirely integers, or if you've made your own object, it will have to consist entirely of that type of object. Um, Individual elements are accessed via indexing in arrays, and I'll show you an example of that later on. But indexing starts with 0, and the length of an array is n minus 1 unless the array is empty. And it's n minus 1 because it starts at 0. So let's say you have an array of 10 integers, or an array of length 10. It would actually be the last index would be 9, not 10, because it started at 0. Arrays are also mutable. So what that means is that they can be mutated, which is just another way of saying that they can be changed. You can make arrays constant, and you would use that just using the typical let keyword. And that can be useful in a lot of scenarios whenever you don't want the data to be changed or manipulated. And also, the compiler handles constant arrays a little bit more efficiently because it's able to optimize performance. But let's go ahead and get started. And so I have some code examples right here already pre-written. So this is how you would declare an empty array. So we use the var keyword. So this one would be able to be changed if we wanted it to. And then you put the name of the array. You use the assignment operator, and then you put the type in between the brackets. And then you just put empty parentheses to signal that it's going to be empty. So what we've done here is we've created an array named int_array of type integer. And we'll go ahead and just to prove that it is empty, we're going to go ahead and print how many items it has using the count method. And so you can see right there, int array has 0 items. We can also go ahead and make an empty array of strings. Array. All right, and so you can see to where in this brackets you would just put the type that is going to be designated for the array, and this dot count method, it gets how many items are in the array. And since these were both empty, they both returned 0 items. Another way that you can initialize arrays is with what's known as default values. And so here you can see where we created an array using the var keyword so it can be mutated. We also named it double array because this array is going to hold double values. Um, and then you use this array function right here and you pass it these two arguments. You pass the value that you want to be repeated to the repeating argument and how many times you want it to be repeated in the count argument. So I'm going to go ahead and write some notes. So we're going to say, let me see, double array is an array of type double containing the value 3.14 5 times, just so that can maybe make a little bit more sense to you. And I used a for loop right here to iterate through the array so I can print out these values for you and you can see that for yourself. I'm going to go ahead and comment out these print statements in the past. That way they're not showing up on the screen as well. And so you can see we have 3.14, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, just like how we designated it to be. And we also did another one right here. So var double array 2 equals array repeating 3.5, count 5. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to comment this out using the multi-line comment syntax. And we're going to go ahead and print this one as well. And so you can see where it's going to have, let me see, array. Oh, whoops, there we go. That's where I went wrong. So you can see where it has a value 3.5. Also notice how it drops this 0 at the end automatically. But the reason we created these two arrays of type double is because I'm also going to show you how you can add two arrays together, and create an entirely new array. So here we've used the var keyword to declare a new array called new double array, and we use the assignment operator to assign it the values contained in double array and double array 2. And so we're going to use the print statement and the count method to print how many items are in there. There should be 10 since each one of these had a count of 5. So there should be 10 items in new double array. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to use a for loop to print the values in an array. And it should be 3.145 times and 3.55 times. So let's go ahead and I'm going to comment this one out as well. We're going to go ahead and test that out. All right. You can see new double array has 10 items. It has 3.145 times and it has 3.55 times as well, just as we expected. And so that's something that you can do that's pretty cool. If you ever need to make a new array out of some other arrays, you can just simply use the addition operator to do that for you. All right. Another way to initialize an array is with a literal value. And so a literal value is, as it's implied, passing the array a literal value. So here we use the var keyword. We named this array wrappers, and we declared it to be of type string. And so we set it equal to these wrappers right here. So these are going to be all the wrappers in the array. I'm going to go ahead and print this for you for I in wrappers print I. All right, and you can see where, let me comment this one out real quick just for future. But you can see where we printed the array was successfully created. It was created using these literal values, and we were able to display them on the screen with the for loop. And so something else that you can do is you can use what's called type inference. And since you're passing it a literal value, when the compiler sees these string values, it's able to infer that this is an array of type string. So you don't have to use the syntax like how we did right here. You can simply use this little syntax right here where you declare if it's going to be a constant or variable, give it a name, use the assignment operator, and then pass in literal values. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and clear that part. And this is going to be a second string array. This one's anime characters. So you can see I put some anime characters in there like Itachi Uchiha, like Yagami, Nagato Uzumaki, Edward Elmic, and Lilu Schlamper Rouge. And we can go ahead and we can combine these two arrays the same way we did the other ones. So let's see what I'm going to name this. I'm just going to name this one Fave People. And we're going to say equals wrappers plus anime characters. We're going to say for I in Fave People print I. And then boom. So now we successfully made an array of type string combined with wrappers, combined with anime characters to form my favorite people. All right, so we're going to go ahead and comment that part out so it doesn't run again. And then now we're going to get into some basic array methods. You use array methods to access and modify an array. And the way that I mentioned earlier that you use indexing to access elements, if you try to access element outside of the array's bounds, so if you try to access if it's an array of length 9 and you try to pass it the index 10, you will get a runtime error. And so let's go ahead and just demonstrate. We've already seen some of these before, like counts. So we're going to go ahead and print fave people dot count. And that's just going to tell us how many elements are in this array, so 11. And then dot is empty. So this is going to return a boolean. It's going to tell us true or false if the array is empty or not. And this one is not empty, so we should get false. I'm going to go ahead and comment this out. There we go, just as I said. And so the dot append function you use the dot notation to call it, and then in between these parentheses, you're gonna pass a value to be added at the end of the array. At the end of the array. And so let's go ahead and we'll add someone to favorite people. So who do we want to add to favorite people? I'm just gonna go ahead and add Mike Jones. All right, he's a great guy. Let me comment this out. And so you can see, so I didn't print it. Let me see. Print for I fave people. Print. I'm going to show y'all that Mike Jones was successfully added. And you can see there he is at the end of the array, right behind Lelouch Lamperouge. We're also going to go ahead and we're just going to add Garth Brooks, just for really no reason other than I feel like he deserves to be in there. Sorry, the video cut out, so I had to cut real quick. But you can also have this notation right here instead of append can also be used to add values to the array. So we're actually going to take this part out right here. And this will do the same thing that dot append does. So we're going to say fave people plus equals Garth Brooks. All right. And then we're going to comment this out. We're going to write another for loop to print. Print I. All right, you can successfully see that Garth Brooks was added to the list behind Mike Jones. All right, and so now I'm going to give you an example of the way indexing works. And so I'm just going to pass it an index value, and we're going to see what happens. So print fave people. I'm just going to pass it the index value of 3. And so since it starts at 0, the array of fave people, it should print out, since wrappers was used first, this is going to be index 0, 1, 2, 3. So I'm expecting to get Killicam. So let's go ahead and run that. And just as I expected, we are now working with Killicam, otherwise known as Cameron. Great guy. But we're going to go ahead and move on to subscript syntax to change an item. And so let's say, you know what, like I'm honestly not that big of a fan of Mike Jones, and his index is going to be, let's see what his index is going to be. So we're going to say fave people dot count, so we can get the total number of elements in the array. I'm going to just take that out. All right, so we have 13 elements in the array total, so that's going to be n minus 1. And so we'll use the index of 12 to access the last element. I know that Mike Jones is the second to last element, and so we're going to head, so that would make him the index of 11. And so just to double check that, Mike Jones. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to change Mike Jones to, let me see, who do we want to add to my favorite people? I'm going to go ahead and add Michael Cera. Pretty funny guy. Uh-oh, we're getting an error. Let me see. Why is this not running? Oh, it is running, just taking a while. All right. And so now, just to show that the index was changed, print fave people, comma, 11, not comma, bracket. All right, so now you can see that Michael Cera has taken the place of Mike Jones in the list. There's a lot of great Mikes in this world. But now we're going to use the dot insert method to add a new element at a specified index. And so let's go ahead and see. So we're going to say fave people dot insert, and I would like to add, let me see, who should I add to my favorite people? I'm just going to put LeBron James, and then comma at index 4. And then we're going to go ahead and just to show you that it worked, favorite people, print index 4 should get LeBron. Boom, there you go. So now you know that he was successfully added to the list. But now I want to take him out for no reason specifically, but just to show you how we can use the dot remove method to take out a specified item at take out an element at a specified index. And so fave people dot remove at 4, and then we're gonna go ahead and print fave people 4 to see what value we get. So we get Young Thug, which means LeBron James was successfully removed, and Young Thug has returned to being the index value at 4. And notice how these indexes and the values associated with them are automatically updated for you. Pretty neat that Swift is able to do that for us. And then we can, if you just want to remove the last element in the list, you can always, or in the array, you can always just simply call the fave people dot remove last. It'll go ahead and do that. And so you can see on the side where Garth Brooks was removed because he was the last person in the list. So I'm going to comment this out. I in fave people print I. And so Garth Brooks should no longer be in the list. And boom, just as we thought, Michael Cera is now the last person in the list. And so array iteration is how you traverse through the array. Traverse is just a fancy way of saying going through item per item per item. And that's what we've been doing. Been using the for loops right here to print the values in an array, to print the individual values in the array. But there's also another thing that you can do, which is you can use the dot enumerated function, or the dot enumerated method. You call that with the let me see. I'm gonna change that to fake people. You call that with the array that you're iterating through, and you pass it instead of I, and this can be any value. I can name that index to match it right there as well too. I'm gonna comment this out. And then you pass it, so you pass it the index and you pass it the associated item. And what the enumerated method does is it returns a tuple of index and value. And a tuple is pretty much like an array. However, it's immutable, so it can't be changed. So it's the equivalent of declaring an array with the let keyword instead of var. And so I'm gonna go ahead and change that. Fake person, and we're gonna go ahead and run this bad boy and see what happens. All right, and so you can see that it printed the associated index, or not the associated index, it printed the index plus 1 because the index would actually be 0. So we had to increment it by 1 to give it an accurate reflection of the person's place in the array. So you can see where it says fave person 1, Playboy Cardi, fave person 2, Lil Uzi, Lil Wayne, Killer Cam, Young Thug, X, so on and so on. And so these are just some basic ways to declare and initialize an array, and also some basic operations that you can use on arrays to manipulate the values stored in them. But that's going to be all for today. As always, be sure you like and subscribe to my channel. So be sure you comment as well too. Let me know things I could have done better. Send me questions. If you ever need any help with anything, I'm more than happy to reach out. But that's going to be all for today. Thank you all for tuning